Good morning, members of the press and our viewing audience. Welcome to the People's National Congress Reform Press Conference for April 21st, 2022. Today, our press statement will be read in two parts, and as customary, after the reading of the press statement, we will take questions on the press statement, followed by any other questions. Allow me to introduce my panel today, starting from my right. I have with me MP Ms. Nima Flubes. To her right, the leader of the People's National Congress Reform and leader of the opposition, none other than Aubrey C. Norton, Member of Parliament, followed by Member of Parliament Ganesh Maithwal. Welcome to our press conference. The statement will be read in its first part by the leader of the People's National Congress Reform.
Good morning, members of the press. Before I actually read, though we issued a written message of condolence to the family of Kadim Kadskan, I wish to take this opportunity to extend our sympathy to the family and to record that Kadskan did serve the People's National Congress Reform at the executive level. He was also a treasurer of the party and was very active doing political work in Region 6, and therefore his passing for us is a great loss, not only as a person, but in terms of his contribution to the party. Priorities and philosophy as the new leader of the opposition. Having assumed the office of the leader of the opposition, outline in broad terms: 1, the way it is envisaged my constitutional responsibilities to the nation will be handled, and 2, ideas on building an effective, people-oriented National Assembly. These are ideas that will be discussed within the PNCR and with the coalition partners. Constitutional responsibilities. These responsibilities are envisaged on several fronts. Firstly, as leader of the opposition who stands ready to fulfill his responsibilities, where the Guyana Constitution dictates that the government must seek the agreement of or have meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition. In this score, for the delays and excuses by the government in making judicial and other appointments can also be described for what they are: acts of bad faith and political machination. Secondly, as a member of the National Assembly who is obligated, along with all other opposition members of Parliament, to represent the demands, rights and concern of both those who voted for the opposition APNU plus AFC, as well as all Guyanese citizens. In this regard, for instance, meeting with the President, should they occur, must extend beyond the appointment of commissioners and judges. Meetings must also discuss opposition concerns about good governance and the incomplete distribution of flood and other relief, the unsatisfactory oversight of the national patrimony in the national resources. Thirdly, as leader of a party and coalition of parties, we will present to the nation a superior alternative than the current regime is managing the affairs of this country. In this regard, we will work to ensure that the opposition not only opposes, but proposes solutions and a vision for every aspect of national life in Guyana. I turn to building an effective National Assembly. The National Assembly has not delivered on the expectations of the 1992-2000 constitutional reform process. In fact, as shown by the recent passage of the PPPC motion to change the quorum from the Public Accounts Committee, what it has shown is that the work of Parliament has retrogressed. It remains ineffective in the scrutiny and investigation of government decisions and actions. It continues to fail to hold the government accountable. To rescue the situation, there will be 5 main priorities. 1, increase the effectiveness of Parliament as a forum for representing the people and for their direct participation in the national decision making. Here, the opposition will push for 1, more sittings of the National Assembly, 2, public hearings on bills, appointments, etc. 3, encouraging motions from civil society and the wider society. 4, increased use of private members' days. 5, funding of constituency office for MPs. 6, the establishment of research facilities for MPs. 2, we hold the government accountable by energizing and refocusing the oversight and investigative powers of the 4 parliamentary sectorial committees, especially those for economic affairs and the social sector. 3, resist all attempts by the Speaker of the House to undermine and restrict the opposition to freely present its views and positions through open debate, tabling of motions, and questioning of ministers. 4, ensure NCN and other state media provide fair and equitable coverage of opposition MPs. 5, increase the number of meetings and engagements of opposition MPs with all segments of the Guyanese society. While these cannot be achieved by the stroke of a pen, the intention is to begin the process to achieve these objectives. Thank you.
PPPC misinformation, discrimination, and vindictiveness against the people of Moco. As part of the PPC's strategy to dominate and control all aspects of the lives of people of Guyana, it continues to implement its policies of discriminating against communities that support the coalition. Visited and engaged with the people of Moco, Arcadia, Barnwell. There were many concerns raised by the residents. Residents are being visited by PPPC activists who are collecting their names, telephone numbers, and copies of their birth certificates, falsely saying to them they have been registered when they are not. The PNCR calls on the PPPC to stop misinforming our people. This practice has been found across the country, and we expect GCOM to inform the people about the registration process so that citizens are not misled. But even worse is the PPPC regime blatant discrimination against the Moca Arcadia. The APNU AFC government had established the Community Infrastructure Improvement Project in many communities to ensure improved infrastructure and other developments. Further, the coalition government had placed the NDCs in those communities in control of their development. The PPPC has replaced the SIP leader in Moca Arcadia with the PPPC activists from Moco. As if that is not wrong enough, the PPPC then removed the management of SIP workers from the Moca Arcadia NDC. Consequently, work in Moca Arcadia community is controlled and dictated by the Little Diamond Horstelling NDC. The PPPC is therefore undermining the elected Moca NDC, as in the case of all NDCs won by the APNU AFC. This is vindictive and discriminatory. In addition, farmers have complained that little or no work is being done on drainage and irrigation. This is further compounded by the government's action to block the main canal, ensuring the water stays on the land. With the rainy season approaching, the people's crop and livestock will be adversely affected, if not destroyed. The PNCR calls on the PPPC regime to bring an end to these heinous acts that will only bring hardship to the people of Moca Arcadia. Is this a case of where the government is creating the conditions to destroy agricultural development in Moca Arcadia? We hope not, but their actions force us to arrive at that conclusion. The plot against the people of Mocha thickens when we note that persons purporting to be from the Ministry of Housing are forcing the residents of Caneview to sign agreements to remove from lands they occupy when the said land is not in the path of the new road being built on the east bank of the Muaro. When this old plot to remove the people began, the claim was that they were in the path of the road. Now that work has begun, and it is evident that they are not in the path of the road, the PPPC seems to be involved in a devious scheme to deprive residents of the opportunity to have lands for which value will go up with the construction of the road. Interestingly, though they purport to be operating on behalf of the government, the people who have accepted their offer have been paid with checks from a private bank. This stinks of corruption, and the PPPC collaboration to deprive these African Guyanese of lands they occupy for over 25 years. The people of Mocha Arcadia and the Pncr calls on the PPPC regime to end this nonsense and clarify this issue. Important as well, these people have been involved in agriculture, and rather than promoting agricultural development, the people are being forced to sell their livestock to accept the PPPC offer to move to a new location. However, those who have not accepted this offer are being threatened and told that their homes will be destroyed. It is unfair and indicative of the greed of the PPPC operatives involved in this evil scheme. We need a Guyana in which all people are treated equally. We call on the PPPC to end the crusade of discrimination, domination, and control aimed at depriving African Guyanese of lands. Such actions will increase the tension in Guyana and confirm that there is no attempt to build one Guyana. African Guyanese are Guyanese, and we have a right to share in our national patrimony, as should be in the case of all Guyanese. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members of the press, at this time we'll open the floor for your questions based on the press conference. By the raise of hand, I will indicate. One moment, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, we're not hearing you.
Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you. You can go ahead.
All right. One question for the leader and one for the comrade who spoke. Comrade leader, have you received a letter from the president inviting you to talks?
No, I haven't.
And I noticed that in your press statement, you indicated a number of areas that you would like discussed. When the president invites you, will there be an agenda? Or is it going to be specific to constitutional issues? I can come back and ask the second question.
First, let me say I have not received any letter, but if what the press is saying is that the president is saying that in 2 weeks we will meet, while I'm disposed to meeting, the president must recognize that both of us have things to do and that it has to be on a mutually agreed date and time. So I don't know whether the president can just in 2 weeks, regardless of the coalition agenda, just decide when we will meet. It has to be mutually agreed. That's the first thing. The second thing is that as representatives of the people in the National Assembly, we are expected as a party, and me as leader of the opposition, to represent all the concerns of the people of Guyana. And therefore, while the Constitution puts some clear obligations, the fact that we are elected representatives, that fact means that we have to deal with the other critical issues that affect the
Comrade's name, perhaps I'll get it later.
MP Flubeth?
What's it?
MP name of Flubeth.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. F-L-U-E-B. Yeah. So sorry. You talked a lot of what is going on at Mocha, and I'm familiar. They also have livestock. Now, when this issue was first breached, I know that there are no party groups in Mocha, but I also know that the community is a PNC community. Were there discussions among the people saying, look, these people are coming with this, we don't understand it. And the other thing has to do with the fact that you said some people have accepted offer. You didn't say who made the offer, and you said they were paid by checks. So obviously, it's an offer made by some section of the government or something. And those who haven't accepted are being threatened. Have these threats been reported to the police?
Thank you for your question. I can't validate if the threats were reported to the police, but it was brought to my attention by residents, and I would have given advice on that matter. I think you made mention of something about livestock in your background that you were giving initially.
Yes, I'm saying that I have relatives there, and some of them have livestock. And according to reports, people with livestock were asked to remove from the lands they occupy. And some are refusing, I know. When you said some accepted, and then I was asking, who made the offer to these people?
All right. Well, as far as I'm aware, the offer is being given through Ministry of Housing. When there was the first press or gathering with the people in that area with Ministry of Housing, they were promised that there will be foreign engagements, and the persons who have their livestock and all of that, they would have a separate arrangement made for them, and all of that was presented at that press conference. However, of course, what was said then never happened.
Could I also add, I visited the area twice or thrice in the last week or so, and one of the documents I saw, for instance, the agreement that they were talking about, it appears to have come from the valuation department of the Ministry of Finance. But when I saw the checks that were given to these people, they were from a private bank. And I thought the government, in issuing checks, issued Bank of Guyana checks. So that was the first concern. The second thing I have observed is they have the tendency to operate in a very shady way. And so I would like to see the Ministry of Finance clarifies, because it appears to me it is PPP activists who are purporting, and business people, who are purporting to be reps of the Ministry of Finance. And once they get agreement to remove these people to sign to move, what they do is issue a check that comes from not the government. And so that raised question marks. I saw one case where they destroyed a home of somebody, and they have reported regularly that they are going in there and threatening them. In fact, they were told if they don't accept the offer and move, they will bulldoze the properties. I have said to them that they shouldn't move. I have said to them that the issue at hand is the value of these lands are expected to go up, and the PPP wants to move you out of the way to put their supporters so that when the value of the land goes up, they will benefit while the people of Mocha move. I noticed you said that there isn't a PNC group in Mocha. That is not true. There is more than one PNC group in Mocha, and we have been working with those groups in Mocha.
Thank you. I see the hands of Mr. Dennis Sherrall, and then we'll take Ms. Argo Morton.
Good morning, Mr. Norton. Dennis Sherrall, Never Airways. Sir, what will be your approach should the president decide to confine the agenda to just the constitutional matters? And secondly, sir, in relation to the matter of shared governance, what's stopping you from proposing to the government or the PPP that there be talks on this subject without conditions?
Well, first of all, historically, the PNCR was in the forefront of calling for inclusive governance. Now, I think we find ourselves in a position where the PPP's response was that you have to first get trust before you get shared governance. I don't know who will put trust in the PPP. I surely wouldn't. So that's an obstacle to overcome. Now, having said that, I turn now to the issue of engagement with the president. As I understand it, the opposition is to represent the cause of the people of Guyana. And in representing them, there will be constitutional matters and there will be matters that are outside of the realm of the Constitution. But not outside the realm of the Constitution, not stated in the Constitution as a constitutional issue to be determined between the president and the opposition leader. And I will push for both, because I believe you cannot deal with one and not deal with the other. And it is my sincere hope that good sense will prevail and we attempt to deal with the issues in the society in a holistic way rather than in a piecemeal fashion that will generate its own problems.
Thank
But
you.
if he doesn't agree, would you still go ahead and have the matters that are the talks on the constitutional matters?
I don't like going in a negative way. I make the assumption that the president is a reasonable man. If he proves to be unreasonable, then I will deal with it at that time.
Which is, why don't you propose, without condition, that there be talks on the matter of power sharing? I know you talked about the historical circumstances of trust and all of that.
I think we will have to agree on an agenda, and nothing is barred from the agenda.
Thank you. At this time,
Thank you very much. For Ms. Flubes, I'd like to know how many people are presently occupying the lands from which persons were told they have to move. Do you have information as to the value of the checks? And how many people have accepted this payout?
I know that there were 35 homes in that area, and I can't say the exact value for the checks that were received. From my last information on the ground, I was told about 15 persons or so would have accepted. But that's my last set of information on that.
And I can also say to you that one of the persons who got a check but not yet moved suggested that they're offering $30 million for people to move. And that is what led me to the conclusion that it's a nefarious scheme.
thank you. Any other questions?
If I can, the flooding situation of the farmlands, would you be able to say if any work was done by the Ministry of Housing or by the Drainage Authority in relation to bringing relief to farmers?
What I can say about that, after we had the spoken or raised our concern about what is happening, the area is still being drained by 2 pipes. I haven't gone there yet for the week because we have to go and check ever so often, because we might go today and see that there's a flow of water, and then later, sometime in the day, the stuff is thrown back there, and so it hinders the flow of water. Check to see what's happening on the site in terms of how much flow of water are we having.
There was supposed to be a planned meeting with residents and I think persons from the drainage authority. Did that happen?
I'm not aware that the meeting took place.
Thank you. Any other questions from the members of the media? I see the hands of Mr. Adam Harris.
Yes, I heard Comrade Fluke say that, or was it Comrade Norton, say that they are offering 30 million.
The person was afraid to show the name on the check because they felt that it can be exposed, etc., and they can be victimized. But 30 million is the number that is being offered. And like I said, that is what raised the concern. And there's a tendency along these roads and the bridges. If you look at the design of what is supposed to become the Demerara Harbor Bridge, you will see they give a design. Everywhere in the world, bridges go from one shore to the other, straight. The design I saw shows that the bridge is going to come and then it's going to turn in the river and obviously go to a point where PPP believes that when it lands at that point, it will do well for their supporters in terms of business, etc. And so for them, it's not a technical issue, and serving the people of Guyana is to do things to ensure that elite PPP friends and family benefit. And I believe what is happening is on that road, what they are seeking to do is to ensure they move every poor person, predominantly Afro-Guyanese, but where there are poor Indians, the same thing is likely to happen, so that these lands could be given to the PPP elite friends and family who are seeking to dominate and control every aspect of life in this country.
Thank you. Any other questions by the members of the media?
I should say, you know, I find it interesting, and I want to ask the press to do this. If they can ask the government, what is the logic behind building a bridge and then you detour to come to the land rather than building a bridge probably the narrowest point and be able to have a straight bridge? I think you will have congestion if you have a bridge that turns rather than one that goes straight. I mean, it's clearly a case of PPP corruption.
Thank you. Ms. Ira Wharton, is your hand up?
With the opening of the Echoes to Mandela Road, you are seeing that a number of road passing through these communities. Will you be seeking to find out from government as to when or as to what are their plans to resurface these roads? And one example that can be made right now is Caneview Avenue. Parts of Caneview Avenue is extremely bad.
Well, first of all, one has to take the whole thing in context. This government is a government that's just fighting for popularity. I don't understand why you open a half road that will not solve the problems of Guyana. Secondly, it had these cut-off roads, and that would have contributed significantly to will go straight to on the East Coast and continue and thus free Georgetown. What they have done is now to create a bottleneck in Georgetown by throwing everything onto Mandela, because Eccles, you have to find your way to mock up Providence area. So that in itself is its own confusion. And I'm not talking here from theory. I went, saw it, and so I'm telling you from practice. The bridge that should link Eccles to the other side is not yet constructed. And so the government is duping us, or duping the population, because a lot of people are of the belief that they complete the road. It's a piece of road that they would have done, and to get popularity and to put money in the hands of PPP people by organizing this big celebration. So they're not serious. Now let's come to the roads in this plan was there. And if you look, you will see that there was the clear path for this road to go through until the government put houses in Grove Diamond in the path, a manifestation of lack of foresight. So they will have now to go and move those people, compensate them, or we can go to rigmarole around the place to get where you're going. It's that in the process of doing the clumsy things they did, they have not only destroyed Aubrey Barker, but you're seeing problems on it really is to get a government with vision and ability to plan, and that is competent, and the PPP isn't that.
And if I may, fix part of a road, the contractor that is doing the work and would have fixed that part of the road ends up destroying more than what they have fixed. And that is happening across this country. I visited the island of Wakenham the other day, and they fixed 1 kilometer of road, but ended up damaging 10 kilometers and 3 bridges. So when you think you invest for something good, what they are giving us is actually more bad than the good. And that is happening with the same new road that we have also, Ivor, because these big trucks that are passing through these streets heading in the direction of the new road, they're passing with heavy weights. And if you were to pass through the first street of Farm, which is an access road to the new roads, passing through with heavy load, so they end up damaging a good road and a long part of the good road to fix a short part that they have been contracted to do. I don't know if it is a calculated effort to damage more with the expectation of getting to fix it back, or what it is. But what I do know is that this government is spending money to do cheap work, damaging the cheap work, and then giving it back to their friends and families to fix again. And you will recall it was in 2015 when the APNU AFC took government. We started a transformation in terms of replacing wooden bridges with reinforced concrete structures. And we started to do projects that we know you can get value for money. Unfortunately, we have returned to the days when you get cheap work at expensive cost and they damage and go back and spend right there again. That is how they're trying to hoodwink the people of Guyana and fool us into believing that they have our best interests at heart. Sad indeed.
Thank you. Any other questions? And any other matter pending? Okay. Oh, Mr. Adam Harris.
Yes, this is for Mr. Mahibal and perhaps the common leader. Last week, there was the vote. Has there been a meeting since that vote? And what was the attendance like?
Well, as a member of the Public Accounts Committee, I want to first say that regardless of the best debates we can have in the National Assembly, and I do believe in all the debates we've had thus far, the APNU AFC won in terms of argument and putting forward valuable and valid points to defend their positions. But you know, the Speaker of the National Assembly had a say when he was a member of the National Assembly, and he would always say, you can have your say, but we will have our way. And that is exactly what we're seeing here in this National Assembly. The PPPC intends to have their way, regardless of what is the position and argument of the coalition to defend its position. We did have a meeting last Wednesday, but that meeting was set since before the debate of this motion. And in terms of attendance, the coalition was in its full number. The PPPC, they were short by 2 members. Madam Gail Teixeira and Dr. Vishwa Mahadio did not attend that meeting, but we did co-rate because the government had their 3 members and we had our 4 members. But I must say that that meeting was not one that was looking at the examination of the agencies, the accounting agencies. It was a meeting that was set the week before to the examination of the public accounts of Guyana.
May I also add that I don't expect the PPP at the very first set of meeting not to give a quorum. I think what they want is to have to delay so that we don't get to the 2020 accounts, which you know they fraudulently dealt with from the time they came to power in terms of COVID relief and everything. So it is something I think they will seek to use strategically when they don't want to meet. But because the debates are fresh and people will remember, I think they will take some time before you see their true colors.
Thank you. I see the hand of Ms. Ivor Wharton.
Mr. Naipaul, some weeks ago, the chair of the Public Accounts Committee had asked that the DREO for Region 10 be allowed to function in his capacity. Do you know whether that is being, if that is being done?
Well, I do recall that the Public Accounts Committee endorsed and supported the position of the chairman, which is to direct the regional executive